Hey, I'm John Dar with Dar-Shakow Insurance, and I'm here with Terry Regar, and we are from the Dar-Shakow Employee Benefits team, and we are getting ready to deliver this big check. $15,000 is going out to one of our clients. Oh. Come on, let's go.
Okay.
Oh, it's a big check.
Heavy.
Let's see if it'll even fit in the car.
Oh my goodness. Oh.
Cut.
I don't think so.
I'm excited to deliver this big check to an employer that had a great year with their employee benefit plan. Not everybody's eligible, but if they are, you too could qualify for a big check. So we finally made it here to deliver the DSI big check. Now, for client confidentiality reasons, we can't take you inside. But if you think your business might qualify for a DSI big check, make sure you call Terry or I at 352-338-0552 or click the link below.
Drop.
Oh,
cut. All right, cut.
You are listening to WHOA Podcast, coming to you from Gainesville, Florida.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the WHOA GNV Podcast, the Coronavirus Sessions. This is what we're doing. We are interviewing business owners, business leaders, members of the community every weekday at noon for about a half hour, just kind of talking about how we are navigating this coronavirus together and how we're going to get our community through this, baby. I just believe in Gainesville. I believe in you so much. We're going to get through this, and we're going to get through this together. Let me introduce to you the one, the only, the best co-host on the face of the planet, Michael Dees. What's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing well, man. I appreciate that. You always give me such nice love.
I like your shirt there, bro. Look at this one. Boom.
Yeah.
You
know, some people might be interested in getting a podcast shirt.
Yeah, how would they get one, Michael?
Yeah, they can buy one on the WOGMD store, and all proceeds go to podcasts like this.
That's right. So definitely support our podcast. Just go to whoagnv.com, click shop, and buy a shirt. Support us and help us out. Also, please, we're definitely looking for help right now. We're trying to pay our team as well, just like every small business across the city right now, across the nation right now, across the world right now. So we've been saying you can submit donations to us through Venmo if that's something that you're willing to do. You can just Venmo me at Collin Austin, COLLIN AUSTIN, COLLINAUSTIN. Collin Austin on Venmo, and any donation, even if it's $1, I mean, like whatever, $5, like help us out. It just goes to helping us, pay our team to do this, and so we're super appreciative of you guys. And we want to thank sponsors, man. Sponsors have been helping us out like whoa. Definitely love our sponsors. So this episode is brought to you by Dar-Shakow Insurance, baby. Brad, you know them over there, Brad? Brad knows them.
Fans.
Brad's a big fan of Dar-Shakow Insurance.
I'm a client. I'm a client of Dar-Shakow as well. I mean, come on.
There you go. Brad is a client. So Dar-Shakow Insurance, thank you guys so much for your support. Definitely check them out at darshakowinsurance.com. Support our sponsors. They'll take care of all your insurance needs. They take care of all of our insurance needs. And just super appreciative of John Dar and the team and everybody over at Dar-Shakow Insurance. So we're going to get right into this episode and talking about a throwback to episode number two. Number 2, you guys. Brad Gamble is back from the Selling Factory, joining us to talk a little bit about this virus and everything. Brad, what's up, man? Can you believe we've made it this far? I mean, you were episode number 2, man. Number 2.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? I mean, what's the most interesting thing that's happened with the podcast? Like, from your point of view, being in that first, like, episode number 2 experience. I mean, I recall it's kind of funny that we had audio issues back then, because I feel like this is going to be crappy audio again with our Zoom format here. But what's been interesting about the podcast since episode 2 from your perspective, knowing that you were that one of those first guests?
I would say that your guests are much better now than they were in episode 2. No offense to James Bates, but I'd say the production quality is really, really a lot better than it was back then. I didn't have anything to compare it to. So, but I think just the changes you guys have made to bring in such amazing entrepreneurs and business leaders and influential people throughout the community has been awesome. I've probably seen 80% of the episodes, I'm guessing. And it's a lot of fun. I listen to you guys if I'm going on a run, or I'll have you on my second screen at work while I'm trying to get work done on the first screen. And I really think too, learning about the businesses. I know the example we started doing our team meetings, off site because of episodes. We big fans of Halo Potato Donuts. We were
Halo Potato shout out
Drew, and he's like, "Hey, I saw your podcast." I'm like, "I saw your podcast too," and it was pretty cool. So definitely, it's definitely put a nice warm blanket over the entire community. So good job, guys.
It's cool, man. It's cool to see the connections and the people, meeting each other, doing business with each other because of some of these episodes. So it's really, really cool. But man, let's get into it. Like talk to us about this virus, because you're very much you're in a very similar boat as us, right? I mean, your employees are college students, and now like they're gone. So kind of talk to us about what happened when you found out. Like us, University of Florida is going to take classes online for 2 weeks, was what they said, right? Now we know that that's much longer. I mean, what were the first steps that you took? What was your response? What were the conversations happening with your leadership team, et cetera?
Yeah, so we in the start of the year, you started hearing about this coming, but to be honest, everybody was so busy with their lives. The economy's roaring, unemployment is low, we're all crushing our goals, and you're like, oh, that's something I don't have to worry about right now. And then it starts getting a little closer, and all of a sudden, wham, it's here. And we got the notice, along with 52,000 students at UF, that they were moving all of their classes to remote. I believe that was on March 10th that happened. So our leadership team got together on the 12th, and this was right after spring break. UF's been start. Our students have been back for maybe a day or two after spring break. So our leadership got together, and we decided to move our team remote on March 12th. And so really we got a little bit of a head start from a remote standpoint, which is in hindsight now was great. I'm super glad we did it as early as we did, because there's some things that you have to get used to with working remotely. I mean, all of us can go home and check emails and do work from our living room. That's not really working remote, but to completely have no human interaction in person, to be able to do the coaching, the training, working with your team, seeing people, checking in on them throughout the day. I mean, that just went to zero. So so our entire team went remote by the 12th, and we've been doing that ever since.
Did you guys already have resources set up like Zoom or because one of the things that I found that I did immediately was I got a Zoom account. And I had never had one before, but I'm just wondering if you had picked up any resources like that, or if you had already had them and had been executing them already. Like, was there anything new that happened?
Good question. So we do occasionally have team members that do work remotely. So let's say during spring break or during winter break or during summer break, we have students that go home oftentimes, and they can still do work remotely. So we had a little bit of experience from a remote working standpoint leading up to this event. Now, we had already been using Slack. We've already been using Trello. We've already been using Zoom, Google Hangouts. We live out of Google platforms anyway. The only thing I think that we added really was, no, actually I take that back. Everything is our phone system, is our ability to remotely tie into our phone system at the office, because previously we could only do outbound calls and lead generation from our physical phones in the office. And our phone system from Boris at IT Masters, our phone system was equipped to have an app to where you can do remote dialing, remote calling. We just never used it, never had a reason to. So that took about a week or so to work out the kinks of, but since then our team has been I mean, I would say 90% productive working from their home, be it in Gainesville or New York or Miami or Atlanta or wherever they are. They're all working remotely right now and able to make calls.
That's great. We probably got to get Boris on here, Mike. I'm thinking, I just want to know, like, I just want to know how his business just instantly went to like this demand of like, yo, dude, I need you to set us up remotely now. Because I feel like that's what we did. We were like, yo, dude, VPNs. We need to access our point of sale, our server. We need to be able to check messages. I mean, like everything. So I know we already had some of that capability, right, Mike? I mean, we already had, like, you already had phone calls being forwarded to your but it wasn't on mine yet.
I was just hoarding it all for myself, and now I'm letting you have some of that fun of the forwarded phone calls and voicemail stuff. No, but Boris, he's funny. I mean, he's been absolutely slammed. When I was talking to him earlier, getting some VPN stuff, he's been absolutely slammed, as you can imagine. All these businesses are now shifting to this remote world and have all these demands on them. But he's handling it like a pro, like he always is. And, you know, I'm thinking all this organic word of mouth he's getting from us, he might have to be a paid sponsor soon, you know?
Yeah, seriously. He's getting all this free promo. Boris, you get all this free promo. Man, no, but it's crazy. It's a good thing that we did have that as a resource, though, because my phone's been blowing up. Like the shops, the calls going to the shop do not stop at all. Like, my phone's over here vibrating as we speak. I mean, it's just like going. So it's good that we've had those resources. And then I actually messaged Mike yesterday saying I need more team members to be able to check the phone call, because I've been in meetings all day doing this kind of stuff and talking to people all day and trying to do everything else that I have to do, that I haven't been able to answer all of the customer phone calls. And I want to make sure that we do, because if there's a time that we actually if there's a time where we desperately need revenue in business, it's right now, right? So I want to make sure that we're not missing anything. I mean, I always want to make sure that we're not missing anything, but again, with it kind of being a desperate time, definitely want to make sure that we're on top of that game. So Brad, like I mean, all your employees are students. I mean, are they still working? Like what are you guys doing right now?
Yeah, so I would say we have a team now of about 40 to 45 students. And it's interesting. We just, we're onboarding 10 new students right now, or over the next month or so. They're going to be working into the summer semester. This is the first hiring class that we've ever had that has been fully remote. So we had our info session remote. We've had our training sessions remote. They've never set foot outside of their interview maybe a month ago. They've never set foot inside the selling factory. So we have new team members that are starting. We have unfortunately a lot of our students that had plans to travel abroad this summer to say Italy or Spain or Israel for study abroad programs. Those have all been canceled, which is really a shame, because it's something, of course, they're really looking forward to. But what that means now is that they have the ability to work at the selling factory over the summer, where otherwise they couldn't. And we have some, I'd say probably about half of our students' internships are still good to go. And usually they're with larger companies that it's not really affecting them as much, or they're still willing to bring on the internships that they committed to over the summer. We have, I would say, from a client standpoint, we have had a reduction, like so many companies have. We have had a reduction in revenue and a reduction in clients using our services. I mean, a lot of that is a case of companies that are in the event space or the hospitality space. And we have some campaigns that we were ramping up for that got bumped out a month or two that we were unable to start, at least not yet. So
real quick. And I have a bad habit of doing this because I just assume that like everybody knows who you are and knows every business that I have on here. But I'm sure somebody's listening that has no clue what you're even talking about right now. So just give a 30-second like pitch, like what you guys do, what your business is all about.
Sure. So the Selling Factory is a sales training and development company where we recruit, hire, train, and manage University of Florida students and teach them entry-level sales development skills, things like lead generation, email outreach, outbound phone campaigns, inbound phone campaigns. And then we also support companies that need those types of duties done on an outsourced basis. So companies that need help with building out sales channels, building out revenue streams, doing lead generation and prospecting, we're able to marry these two populations together, our trained student teams, as well as our companies that want to outsource these job functions to us. And that's what happens at the Selling Factory.
Yeah, so now that these students, you're onboarding people, they're completely remote. I mean, are these students just working at home on their phones, calling these people? Like, how are you guys navigating the business aspect of it now with everybody being scattered everywhere? Because I know you guys, the students will work in little groups of teams, right? Like they'll have like 4 or 5 people working on one client. Like, are those 4 and 5 people still like getting together and meeting, or is it just kind of like everybody's scattered everywhere and they have their role and responsibility and they're just tackling it individually at this point?
So this is where having an incredibly strong leadership team comes in extremely helpful at times like this. And luckily, thankfully, we have a really strong leadership team. So there's myself, my 2 business partners, Ian and Adam, and our director of Gainesville, Jared, and our campaign manager, Zach. So we have our 5-person leadership team. What we do is every day we huddle up, and now pretty much Jared and Zach are handling this, huddle up and say what are going to be the job functions required for the next day. So they're able to assign tasks to everybody, so that the next day when a team member is ready to, so quote unquote, clock in for work, they check Trello to find out what jobs that are available for them to work on, and it's already set up for them. It used to be when a student would come into the Selling Factory, they say, hey, what am I working on today? And we say, you're going to work on this project or that project. Well, now, since we don't have that interaction anymore, it's all remote, they can check the Trello boards and see what they're going to be working on. So, but having people available at all times at our mission control, so to speak, with Jared and Zach, that is the linchpin. That's really what allows all of our students, if they have questions, we set up Slack channels for every single one of our clients, even channels for each of our projects that we're working on. Questions are popping up. They're able to hop in, ask questions. Jared and Zach can answer those questions. So that day-to-day management of the teams really it's working really well. And I'm super proud of those guys for what they've been able to do. Ironically, I feel that a lot of what we've learned and we've been forced to do during this time is actually going to make us a heck of a lot better down the road. Because now, there were things that we were doing before that we probably didn't have to do. And now we've been forced to plan and prepare remotely. There's a lot of these systems that we'll probably keep in place even when students start coming back into the Selling Factory, because it's just going to make us that much more productive. So we have had to do a lot of cross training, and typically a student at the Selling Factory will not just work on one campaign during their time, they'll work on multiple campaigns. So typically a student will be trained on 2, 3, or 4 different client campaigns at a time. So there is a lot of shifting around of resources. If we're coming to the project for one company, they can move to another company's project. So there is a lot of, I hate the word multitasking. There's a lot of movement around on where they're focusing their time throughout the month. Luckily, our students are incredibly smart, very agile, tech savvy, and love the constant, really having the challenge of learning about our companies and be able to help them in their campaigns.
How have any accountability measures that you had in place when everybody was coming to the Selling Factory, how have those changed now that you've got this 45-person college demographic team that's working remote, all over the country here? Like how have those accountability measures changed?
So we've had to figure out, how did we hold people accountable before, and then how can we hold them accountable now? So some things that we've done for accountability standpoint is when somebody comes into work, they have to check in on Slack. So in our Slack channels that we have, say for client A, they'll come in and, Ryan checks in and Josh checks in and Sarah checks in and Lauren checks in. So they're in the system. We can see them in the system. We can see them working within the campaign, whether it's making calls or doing research or sending out emails, whatever it might be. And because everything we do is pretty quantitative, we can tell how many leads are being researched and populated at a time, how many emails are being sent, how many calls are being made. It's actually it's actually pretty simple to see how they're doing and be able to hold them accountable for that. I think the one thing that's missing out of all this is social time. To where, if you think about it, if somebody is working for 1 hour and say 15 minutes of that hour is just some fun conversation. What'd you do this weekend? How are things going? Tell me about this, tell me about that. That's literally 25% of that hour that went away. Well, they seemingly don't have those same interactions that they used to. So productivity has remained really high. Now, ideally, I want them to have those interactions. I want them to meet new people at the Selling Factory. And there's been a lot of friendships made from different groups of people that have come in there because of that. So I don't want that to ever go away. But we have seen them keep their productivity very high during this time. And I have to believe it's just because they can focus because there's fewer distractions.
That's interesting that you said that, because one of my questions was, I mean, now, Mike and I have talked about on a couple of the other previous episodes, the changes in like status quo, what becomes the new normal. And I mean, it's feasible that like a company like yours figures this out, transitions to a completely remote setup and goes, I don't need a building anymore. I'm saving that rent every month. I don't know what you're paying in rent, but like, I'm sure it's something. And so now you're like,
it is.
Well, like now we can save that money and have everybody be remote. I mean, is that even an inch like of a thought like right now? I mean, or is it like, nah, like when this thing's done, we're definitely going to go back. Everything's going to go back to the way it was. I mean, is it an option?
So we don't believe it's an either or. There's something to be said for the environment that we've created at the Selling Factory and our students have created. It's fun. I mean, Collin, you've been there a bunch. You walk in, it's just fun. There's people, there's activity, there's people making calls, there's action happening. It's really hard to replicate that in a remote environment. However, the points you bring up about rent, utility bills, things like that are just cost a lot of money that might not be necessary. Yes, we've had a lot of those discussions and how this potentially could change our business model for the good, for the betterment of the company going forward. And what it might mean is that, our dream was ultimately to have in every large college town across the U.S. a 5,000 to 6,000 square foot facility with 40 to 50 workstations, and we pull students in from all over, from the local university, and that was our model. But it might mean that maybe we still have the in-person model for, say, phone campaigns and things that take a lot more training, but we have double that workforce working remotely on projects that you don't necessarily have to be in the office to do. Things like research and lead generation and email outreach, things like that. So yes, we have been thinking about that. And if we're able to reduce some of those fixed costs like rent and utilities, and not eliminate them, but reduce them. I don't think that we're at a point where we are going to be I say this now, I don't envision us being a fully remote company. That just wasn't the vision of the Selling Factory from day one. But with that, I feel that we could certainly have a hybrid model to where we do have the in-person aspects of what we do, but we have this way more significant remote presence than what we had previously to this.
So I want to talk a little bit more, go deeper on the productivity aspect, because I think one of the interesting things that Collin and I have talked about early on when we first started this remote, we have techs that are working from our dealership servicing scooters, and right now that's the only revenue that's really coming in, and we need them more than ever, turning out as much work as possible. But what's interesting is, like you mentioned, there's those distractions that happen during the day aren't happening as frequent whenever you don't have as many people there. So it kind of makes sense that someone might be a little bit more productive in 1 hour's worth of work than they would be under normal scenarios. So one of the things that we kind of got in was, one of the first days that our service team went remote, they wanted to leave an hour early. And so I had that conversation with them and said, okay, well, what got done today? I want to know the metrics, like how productive were they? And if you guys feel like you got enough done, I know as a person that used to be kind of the average employee myself, like I know that they're asking to leave because they've checked out. So they can stay for that hour and I can pay them to do nothing, on one hand, but we're looking at it as employers saying, no, but I want you to be productive for that hour. But it's a capacity issue that they're not used to working under. I think we do a lot of things during our normal day to sustain ourselves for 8 hours of work time. But if we're being more productive or equally productive in less time, I think we get this checkout mentality, or at least some of our employees do. So I just kind of want your thoughts on that. Is it something that you worry about with your team or measure against, or you say that you encourage those interactions when things are normal? So kind of what are your thoughts on that?
Hold on.
First thing
Can I just add one more element to this though? Because I think you're missing. I think there's a big piece missing, and the piece that's missing is the fact that we do not know whether or not we will be open in a week. Like there's this for me, I'm looking at that hour and I'm saying, we have an hour. Like let's use it. Because I don't know that in a week from now, the government, the city, whoever is going to say, you cannot go into work. Do not go. And right now we have the opportunity to use that hour to earn revenue where we might not have that opportunity in the future. And so that's the only thing I will say or add on to this. And then I would love to hear Brad's thoughts on this. Okay, go.
Well, luckily, I don't think the government's going to be closing down anybody's homes. So, and since the work that our team is doing is from home, that's the safest place they can be. So it's a little bit different there. Mike, we have, something you just mentioned, staying productive in an 8-hour day. One of the tenets of our business model is that our team members work short shifts at a time. We actually sell, one of our selling points for companies is that our student working for 4 hours will be at worst as productive as a full-time person working for 8 hours. Because what happens is, especially doing the kind of work that we're doing, it can get tedious at times. It can grind on you. But that's why our team members are only working 2, 3, or 4 hour shifts typically. And that way you can do almost anything for 2 or 3 hours. And that same type of role in an 8-hour period, I think absolutely would cause massive burnout. And I would rather not pay that person for those extra hours and say, just check out, rather than sitting at their computer at home, burning through a couple hours if they're not working, watching Netflix, whatever. So we've actually, that's one of our core beliefs, is that you get more out of people working shorter shifts. And we have the luxury of that, thankfully, because we have part-time students working for us. So they can't be full-time. They can't work 8 hours a day. For the kind of work that they're doing, we don't want to bring people on that will do that for 8 hours a day. Now, management, leadership positions, different story. Our team is working 8 hours a day plus managing it, but they're managing a bunch of different things throughout the day. From our student standpoints, they're only working 2, 3, maybe a 4-hour shift, and then they're done. So we get a lot of productivity out of that short period of time, and we don't have to worry about that 8-hour day, thankfully.
Is that passable, Collin? I'm just curious. It's tough because we don't have that luxury, like you said. You have the luxury of being able to work from home. We do to some extent, but like our service personnel don't. They have to work where the lifts are, where the scooters are, where their tools are. And I think that's been one of the challenges. For one, is having everybody healthy enough to show up, but then having the measures in place, understanding what the capacity changes have been. Because I think what's interesting, and Collin will totally attest to this, is from our service department, the rhetoric is constantly, if we could just shut the doors down for a week and be able to work without the distractions of walk-in appointments or the changes that happen during the day, that we'd be so much more productive. Well, now they get that shot, right? But the idea of working 7 hours, 8 hours straight with an hour lunch break with no interruption, focused mentally on diagnostics, repair, making sure, I mean, there's a lot of pressure on them. They're dealing with the safety of, you know, somebody's transportation, to be engaged for that long without those, you know, sustaining distractions, I think has been a challenge for them. I think it'd be a challenge for a lot of people to kind of just stay engaged that long when they're not used to it.
But would you not agree that somebody uninterrupted could produce more in 6 hours than somebody being interrupted could produce in 8 hours?
I would totally agree.
So if that's the case, then what it might mean is that you have 6 hour shifts, and you maybe you don't need as much staff. I mean, in this current environment that we're in, of course, it's probably not realistic to think that this would happen forever and ever. But it sounds like, you know, you'd be getting more productivity in less time. Therefore, if you think of daily output, you could be even further ahead than you would be in a normal interruptive 8 hour day.
Yeah, and I would hope that they've been very, very productive. You know, we're holding a Zoom team meetup at the end of the day. We did that yesterday at 6 p.m. At least with our leadership team and our service leadership, and kind of seeing where things have progressed. But you know, I don't know how productive it has been. I mean, do you know, Mike? Has it been overly productive?
Just like, the recap itself, or just the service output?
I'm talking about just the service output. Like, do you know if the percentage of scooters being serviced has increased because of? Yeah,
I mean, that's the thing, is like, I haven't, honest transparency, I haven't been to the dealership in over 2 weeks, so I know what I'm told, and I trust our team that's there. I know what I'm told. I do talk with them several times a day, and you know, get updates from them. They ask questions about specific nuanced stuff, and you know, I let them pick my brain. I ask them questions. You know, I'm responding to emails that I don't have all the information to, so we're in constant contact, and I don't really doubt it, but I also don't have that firsthand knowledge like I would if I was working from the dealership, to kind of be able to see what's getting, you know, finalized and what's coming through and getting paid for, and that kind of thing, like that, you know, maybe we do originally, you know. But it's definitely interesting as teams, you know, all these businesses that are going remote, it's that idea of accountability and how productivity might change, and how does it get rated and compensated? How does the perspective change of, you know, what one person's able to do in the same amount of time under one circumstance at the dealership, at the selling factory, and how that changes for that one person might not be how it changes for another person. So these are all new kind of things that we're dealing with as this pandemic kind of affects all of our businesses.
Well, and keep in mind too that our sample size is 3 weeks right now.
It is.
People have been remote, so I think time will tell. You know, some people enjoy working from home; they love it. I personally am not a huge fan of it. I mean, I love spending time with my family and doing all kinds of projects around the house that I normally wouldn't be doing. But I love being in the office. I love interacting with people. I love coaching and training on site and seeing my team every day. But some people thrive in this type of situation and love to work remote. So I think what this has done, though, is it's really accelerated this process. I mean, the world was going more and more, the business world has been going more and more remote over the past, say, 10, 15 years. I mean, having the idea of having a distributed workforce was foreign many, many years ago, but now it's a lot more accepted. I think what this is going to do is very much accelerate the process of more people working remotely, and it being okay. It's not something that's frowned upon or people are worried about. If anything, people working remotely might even have that fear that people might think that they're not working as hard and therefore work harder. You know, we'll have to see. But I certainly think that remote work is here to stay, and we're going to see nothing but more of this in the future, even when we get back to normal.
Yeah, definitely. We got to wrap up in a minute, but I want to ask you really like just a question around sales. I mean, like right now, the entire business climate is suffering from a sales standpoint. Like businesses, I mean, like I've been looking at our numbers. I'm like, man, I'll be surprised if we don't take a $300,000 hit just based on the fact that we're not going to sell scooters, or as many as we anticipated at the beginning of the year, right? So, I mean, what's your advice? Like, what's your advice to businesses out there that know that, you know, hey, we're gonna take a hit, but what can we be thinking about from a sales standpoint? How can we get sales and get us through this in this remote environment, in this focus? Like, where should our mind be set, I guess?
Well, a couple of things I did when all this really hit in early March. The first thing I did personally as a business owner, I completely updated and laid out my family's budget, my family's what our expenses are. Really thinking, what if I didn't have an income going forward, which, you know, if our business goes under, I don't have an income, what does that mean? How much runway do we have as a family? So I think first and foremost, people need to think about their own family's situation, financial situation. Then when it comes to the business, what I did was I created, I'll get to your sales question in a second, but I had monthly cash flow reports, and I've had those constantly, and I'm always reviewing those. I broke those down into weekly cash flow reports and said, what is my cash balance for the company to start each week? What is coming in the door? What is going out the door? And instead of me saying I have, I don't know, 4 months of runway as an example, I can say, actually, I have 3 months and 2 weeks of runway, or I have 4 months and 1 week of runway. So getting really, really granular on because right now cash is everything. Cash is what's going to get you through this. If you're a bigger company that has a big rainy day fund, awesome. You'll probably weather the storm. If you're a startup that has no bandwidth, unfortunately, we're seeing companies go out of business left and right, even locally here, which is awful. From a selling perspective, very few businesses or people are buying anything right now, and I just think we have to embrace that. We have to realize that unless it's toilet paper or alcohol or
necessities.
Yeah, necessities, right? Crafting games for the kids, video games. Don't kid yourself. There's a lot of industries doing very well right now, but the vast majority are not doing very well. So what does that mean? Once you go through and you figure out how long your company can survive, and also making sure that as a business owner that you are looking at all the different relief packages that are out there, whether it's the federal stimulus, whether it's the Florida, the state disaster, the $50,000 loan that's available through the state of Florida SBA. There's a lot of information out there right now. It's kind of confusing, and people are still working their way through it. But I know there's a lot of resources, and Collin, you know, a lot of these folks that can help businesses navigate through that. But from a selling perspective specifically, this is a fantastic time for people to take a step back and say, okay, which of our sales channels are working? Which ones are not? How is our team performing? What can we do to get under the hood right now while we're all in this pause mode and work on our messaging, our content, our scripts, our strategy, our pricing, and prepare ourselves, because hopefully it's going to be like when the gates go up and the horses just run out once this economy starts to turn back around. What you don't want to be doing is sitting back waiting for that to happen. And when you see that happen, all of a sudden you start figuring out what your sales strategy is. And that's something that we've had to do ourselves. At the Selling Factory has had to do this from a selling perspective. Is what our strategy was the first quarter this year when we were having a banner first quarter. We just went like this to that strategy and just ripped it up and said, okay, what are we going to do now? So our leadership team has been meeting every single day to talk about what markets can we, what industries could we help right now? What different types of companies can we really provide value for? And how do we approach those companies and say, look, you want to be ready for when the economy starts to come back. We can help you do that. So I think that it's a really good time for people to take care of their health, take care of their finances, and take care of their strategy while we're all in this pause mode right now, and just be prepared.
Are you guys ready to do cold call scooter sales? Yeah.
Sorry. We're B2B, bro. Sorry.
Hey, you might have to innovate and change the model. You don't know, like, I mean,
I'll
now's the time.
sell scooters to businesses. That's no problem.
Yeah, Brad. That's exactly right.
If you gotta figure out how to do it remotely right now.
Right. No, it's definitely a challenge.
Yeah.
We're working on it. Dude, thank you so much for joining us. You always have great perspective. I'm in a mastermind group with Brad, and I always am seeking this guy's opinion on all of my business manners, and I just appreciate you joining us today, man, and helping us lift Gainesville up a little bit and get through this. So good luck to you guys. If there's anything we can do to help you, just let us know. But why don't you tell our audience where they can connect with you, where they can, if they have a business that's trying to do what you guys do, like, where can they connect with you?
Absolutely. So you can connect with us at thesellingfactory.com is our website. You can email us at grow, GROW, at thesellingfactory.com. You can find us at Facebook. You can find us on LinkedIn at The Selling Factory. Lots of different channels out there. And we're happy to talk to anybody. We have a lot of discussions with people, even if it's not a good fit for our business. We just love helping business owners think through sales strategy, sales problems. And that's one of the reasons why we started the company, not only to build a profitable company, of course, but also to be able to help other business owners. So we're happy to chat.
Love it, man. Appreciate you, man.
Hey, thanks, Mike.
And Gainesville, everybody. Mike, you got any last words?
No, you're good, man. Go ahead, wrap it up.
Gainesville, everybody, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for supporting our podcast. Thank you for supporting local business. Now is the time to support your local businesses more than ever. Go buy gift cards. Go pick up that order from the restaurant. Like, whatever. Support your local businesses right now. This is the time. We all desperately need it. And we're going to get through this. Stay strong, Gainesville. I love you. We love you. This is the WHOA GNV podcast, the podcast bringing you businesses and individuals that make you go, whoa. Whoa.
Whoa.
There it is. The delay. We will see you guys later. Thanks for listening. Bye.